What's up, everybody? Jason from Jason's Exotic Reptiles. Today we're going to talk about if you should start breeding reptiles. This is my advice after 30 years of reptile keeping and breeding. If you're on the fence about breeding reptiles, this video is for you. This is my honest advice after years and decades of breeding. I've seen people who have succeeded in ways that I couldn't even imagine, all the way to people who have crashed and burned and just gave up after one season or even before they got started. So we're going to break down this video if you are actually ready and if this is something that you should be considering. First thing you need to consider is, why are you doing this? What is your why? Is it because you want to make money? Is it because you want to deepen your connection with the reptile hobby? Do you want to make that specific morph that you just can't afford to buy? Defining your why is really going to shape why you should actually breed or why you should not. At the end of the day, keeping and breeding are two totally different things. They really are. And you can't just say that I want to breed because I'm a keeper, because they're two different elements. Keeping is enjoyment and enjoying these animals for what they are, interacting with them, and there doesn't need to be a financial outcome of it. Breeding is, you're now starting a business. Whether you think it is or not, breeding truly is a business. You're going to have a profit end of things. You're going to have a loss end of things. You need to plan for this stuff. So do you really want this to be a business, or do you just want to take your hobby to the next level? It all feeds into that why. The next question I usually ask people when I'm at an expo and they say, should I breed, is I usually ask them, are you ready to fail? Because breeding is going to let you down. Maybe you have a great first year, second year, third year, but eventually you're going to have a failure. Those animals that you had as pets are going to die. They're going to have complications. Not always. Not I have 30-year-old animals here, but it's something you need to be prepared for. Are you prepared to lose that animal if something goes wrong? I've said it a million times, is that these animals can't speak. And when there's a complication, it's not always apparent. So you can't just say this animal's in trouble. Sometimes by the time you catch it, oftentimes by the time you catch it, it's too late. You're also going to get your hopes way up high, and then they're going to be let down when you have this perfect breeding year and all of a sudden you get a bunch of slugs, or you get eggs that don't incubate correctly and you lose them all. This is part of the process. So are you prepared to lose? Are you prepared to fail? Another element to consider is, do you have the right space and requirements to do this? Do you have racks for babies? Do you have things set up, or your temperature and humidity controls? Do you have a good constant feeder supply, or are you still buying from the local pet store at $10 for a rat? All this stuff starts to add up, and because you're breeding, depending on your why, this could impact things. If you're not breeding to at least pay for itself, then you may be hurting financially just constantly dumping money into something that would be a lot more enjoyable if you just kept these as pets. Something else that's essential to consider is, what are you going to do with all these babies? Are you going to hold some back? Do you have the right equipment to take photos of them? Do you have a market? Do you know how to price these animals? It's not as simple as just saying, I paid $300, so I'm going to sell them for $300. And it's also not as simple as saying, well, I'm just going to sell my $1,000 animal for $500. That doesn't always work, and oftentimes it works against you. It gets people skeptical. So do you know how to sell? Now, this is stuff you can learn along the way, but the quicker you learn this, the earlier you learn this, you're going to determine if breeding is right for you. Breeding also takes time. This is something that, if you're going to invest in breeding, you may spend a bunch of money to get the right cages, the right setups, and to get the right animals, but in the end of the day, it's going to be years before you see that money back. Would it be a lot easier if you just had the couple animals you wanted? So for instance, if you were trying to breed for a specific animal, all this money and time you put in to try to make that specific animal, are you better off just buying it and calling it done and saying, that's all I really wanted? I wanted this morph that was a little more expensive than I could afford at the time, so I decided to buy 2 or 3 or 10 and try to make that animal. Because if that's the end goal and that's the only end goal, then maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe you just want to be a keeper, save up and buy that animal, go on a payment plan, but you don't always need to breed. It's okay to be a keeper. I somewhat touched on this, but profits and money is not quick or easy. It's something that you have to wait years to make, and then you have to sell the babies, and there's costs associated with all of this. Do you really want to expand to have extra racks for babies, some quarantine space if you're getting new animals in, dealing with customers, 10, 11 o'clock messages to people? Sometimes I'll be writing messages back to people at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because they sent me a message at that time, and I just happened to wake up, see the message, and I'm responding to them. Are you ready to do this in order to sell the babies? Is that part of what you want to enjoy? Maybe you just want the social aspect and you want to go to reptile shows. You know what? You can go to reptile shows without actually being behind the table. You can still interact and enjoy different keepers and breeders by just showing up. So this is all stuff to consider. I will say there is a ton of good stuff about breeding, but you have to love the process. You can't just love the quick endorphin rush of saying, wow, look at all these babies in the cage. You have to love the whole process, the raising them, the feeding them, the keeping them, the selling, the marketing, the social media aspect. You have to love every bit of it, or I would say that within 1 to 2 seasons, or even before you make babies, you're going to be burnt out. And what you thought was going to be fun and happy, especially if you get some failures right off the bat, you thought after 4 years you'd be making babies, but in reality, you get a year or a terrible season, or an animal dies before it actually bred. I've seen a lot of people get super discouraged and then just exit the hobby. But there is a lot of fun and enjoyment out of this if you love the process. So you have to make sure you love the process of breeding. You love the process and everything about the process, because if you love one component and hate everything else, or if you love half the components and hate everything else, it's like a marriage that just doesn't work. Eventually, it's going to fall apart and fail. Another essential aspect is that breeding changes your perspective on animals. And it has to. And it's something I hate to say, but these are no longer pets, but they're actually pairs. And these are things that you're starting to consider. Now, I certainly still have pets, things that I will never breed, things that I don't breed. But when you're actually bringing in the breeding component and the financial component of this, of now you've essentially scaled up, then there is money and income that needs to be made in order to produce and to support the animals that you've now acquired. If you have babies, where are you going to get the money to go buy the racks? You have to make sure you're considering all of this stuff. And if you don't love the process and you don't love the components of what you need to do, then this is going to get really redundant and old very fast. And not only will you not want to breed reptiles, but you're not going to want to keep reptiles either anymore. A final component to this is that if you're not sure, don't do it. It's okay to just be a keeper. I don't know where this notion came in that everybody who is keeping reptiles, boas, ball pythons, corn snakes, that it's kind of like looked down upon if you're not a breeder. It's something that I actually like, the people who are just keepers. I like breeders too, but I have a lot of respect for the people who are pure keepers. They just want to enjoy these animals, give them cool enclosures or whatever they want to do, but just interact and keep the reptile for what it is and enjoy it as a pet. So you don't need to just jump to breeding. Talk to breeders, talk to other keepers, go to these shows, look on Morph Market, consider breeding, but it may never be a good thing and the right thing for you to do. If you're on the fence, I hope this video helped you get the right mindset. It's 100% okay to be a reptile keeper without the breeding aspect. You will not lose respect. And you know what? If somebody doesn't respect someone because they're not breeding, then that's not somebody you're actually getting real respect from to begin with. So who cares about them? Enjoy the animals, enjoy the hobby. Let me know down below in the comments what you think will actually be another step. Did I miss something? Is there something that you resonated with? I want to hear from you. Until next video, let's keep it moving.